When the first Mario Party landed on the console, it was a new IP, and one which took players by storm. It fit perfectly into the N64's multiplayer arena and became one of the most played party games that I could think of. Its problems were mostly ironed out with Mario Party 2, which upon its release felt more like a refined version of the original, and most importantly, it removed the minigames which had broken many a gamer's controllers. And so for the final time on the N64, Hudson teamed up with Nintendo to release Mario Party 3 in mid-2001. By this time we all knew that the console was winding down, and to be fair, many gamers had already left the console by this point. That's not to say though that this was a rushed out release and one final cash in, but at times that's exactly how the game feels. As I said with the previous games, if you're thinking about playing solo, then any of the Mario Party games shouldn't really be at the top of your list of games to play. The entire game really works best when you're packed around the console with friends, and much of the magic that happens is sadly missed if you're playing this on your own. The core gameplay remains unchanged since the very first Mario Party release. Pick your characters, the amount of turns, handicaps, and one of the multiple game boards, and make your way around it collecting items, stars, and entering minigames against your opponents. This time around there are 70 brand new minigames, which is refreshing, especially for those of you that were disappointed that many of the minigames in Mario Party 2 were simply updates to ones which you've been playing already in Mario Party 1. The mix of minigames is also greatly improved, and there are some inspired entries which are a whole lot of fun. On the other hand though, at the other end of the spectrum, there are minigames which are over in seconds and really seem a missed opportunity much of the time. My personal favourite addition though was the addition of the new characters. Daisy and Waluigi have been added to the cast of playable characters, and as Waluigi is one of my personal favourite personalities, it was refreshing to not have to pick Wario for a change. Of course, it makes no difference in terms of the actual gameplay who you pick, and so the returning cast of characters do come back to make their appearances. The story mode of the game begins with a long-winded introduction, which essentially brings some meaning to the selection of boards this time around. Taking place in a toy box gave the developers the opportunity for some creativity, but I personally found that the boards themselves to be rather uninspired. Of course, Mario Party is all about the minigames, but when compared to the previous entries, Mario Party 3 has some of the blandest board designs. Perhaps the biggest letdown though were the game's graphics. Mario Party has never been impressive in terms of its visuals, but I couldn't help but feel that this was a step back for the series. When in game, the boards looked blurry, especially when you zoom in close to shops and the other item screens. The character models are also clearly not up to scratch. As I mentioned in the previous reviews, they seem to look a little too rough around the edges, and when you compare the pixelated characters with the blurry backgrounds, it just makes this a poor looking title. Saying that though, the graphics do seem to improve in the actual minigames themselves, which does bring me a lot of frustration, as if they could do it so right in the minigames, why couldn't they spend a bit more time to make some higher resolution character models and game boards? But that is a small issue. With the controls being as tight as ever and the level of fun you have being dictated by who you're actually playing with, Mario Party 3 is a worthwhile game to play. But don't be too disappointed if you were hoping for one final epic Mario Party to rule them all on the console, because this title is definitely not the one. Rounding off the package are the game's many audio tracks, sadly though none of which are terribly inspired. Saying that though, they aren't particularly clear either. By this time in the console's life we had heard some great scores, and developers had found ways to compress audio to get some higher quality sounds coming off the cart. Sadly though, this must have all been alien to Hudson, because what you're left with here is some average, some slightly cute, and some happy music that's nothing that you're going to be listening back to for weeks on end. I personally feel that the studio had to make some compromises here. With the console's end coming quickly and deadlines to make, it's clear some corners had to be cut in order to get this out on store shelves and to have any hope of returning a profit. On the other hand, there are many positives, such as the great selection of minigames that you could see it as a way to satisfy those who only needed a new set of minigames to play through. Either way, I'd love to know your memories of Mario Party 3. After the first two releases, were you eagerly awaiting the next entry in the series? Or after the rushed Mario Party 2, which had many recycled minigames, did you finish with the series to avoid being burnt once more? Or perhaps you'd moved on to the next generation of consoles by this time and so you don't even remember this game being released. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and until next time.